A bold religious expert recently discovered lost writings called the Apocalypse of St. Paul, hidden under his ancient home in Tarsus. They were inside a dust marble box, along with items like Paul's sandals. Paul, known for intense visions, claimed he was taken to paradise and heard secrets meant for gods. What if this hidden box holds clues to find a haven on Earth, like the Akarushan Lake? Let us explore why this box could result in the discovery of the lake that could protect us from the Antichrist. The strange visions of St. Paul. Paul the Apostle often spoke about his unique spiritual experiences, where he claimed to have visions from God. He was unsure if these events occurred while he was awake or in some kind of spiritual state. Only God really knew the details. He recounted being taken up suddenly to the third heaven and later to a place he described as paradise. There, he claimed to hear important divine messages, which he said were not to be shared by ordinary people. Despite these extraordinary experiences, Paul chose to talk only about his own weaknesses rather than boast about these divine encounters. Long ago, during the time of Emperor Theodosius II, there was a nobleman living in Tarsus, in a house that once belonged to St. Paul. One night, an angel appeared to him and told him to dig under the house and share what he found with others. Thinking it was just a dream, he ignored the angel, but the angel came back 2 more times, and on the third visit, the angel physically made him listen. Listening to the angel, the nobleman dug beneath the house and found a marble box said to contain writings from saints and the shoes Paul wore while teaching. Fearing what was inside, he didn't open the box, but sent it to the local judge. The judge, unsure, sent it to Emperor Theodosius, worried about what might be inside. Meanwhile, the sun, from its spot in the sky, grew frustrated watching humans do wrong. It wanted to show its power to make humans respect God. The moon and stars felt the same, watching Earth's violence and disrespect at night. They all wanted to act, but God asked for patience, hoping humans would return to the right path. The sea, polluted and misused by humans, also spoke up. It wanted to rise and cleanse the earth to show there's only one true God. The waters talked about how humans stain God's name. In all these complaints, God's answer was the same. He sees and hears everything and hopes for humans to ask for forgiveness. This cycle of complaints from nature and patience from God shows a warning. Change and repentance are needed. If ignored, divine punishment might follow. The earth, burdened by humanity's dark deeds like violence and deceit, thought about withholding its gifts to teach humans a lesson. This story reminds us that while nature follows divine laws, humans often stray. Every evening, angels report to heaven about human deeds. Each person has an angel whose emotions reflect their human actions. This calls for humans to always praise God, especially in the evening. As night falls, a heavenly gathering prepares to judge human deeds. The celestial observers report. When night falls, angels gather to present a detailed report of human morality to God. This isn't just a routine check. It's an in-depth examination of human actions, fully transparent and open for divine judgment. At a specific moment, when all angels come together, an important discussion happens in the heavenly realm. God asks them about their observations, and they share stories of those who have given up worldly pleasures for spiritual growth, choosing to live in solitude and hardship, enduring physical and emotional challenges in the name of God. These angels, closely connected with the devout, also feel the emotional weight of those they watch over, showing a deep connection between heaven and humans that goes beyond life on earth. They seek guidance from God, ready to follow His commands, moved by deep empathy for those souls who, despite their extreme deprivation and suffering, are especially committed to spiritual purity. Humans are reminded that they are under divine watch and should always honor God, knowing that every action is noticed and judged, with celestial beings acting as advocates or mourners based on their daily choices. The ongoing process of angelic monitoring and God's patient waiting send a clear and urgent message. Change is needed, and accountability is inevitable, with the divine assembly witnessing every human act. On earth, God's mighty voice tells the angels that His grace is with them, and His beloved Son will always be there to guide and support them, never leaving their side. As this group of angels leaves, another group arrives, visibly distressed, entering a majestic hall of honor within the heavenly assembly. When God asks about their origin, they explain that they come from watching the struggles of people on earth who, despite calling on God's name, are constantly overwhelmed by worldly distractions that corrupt even their most sincere attempts to connect through prayer. God responds with a firm command. The angels must continue their efforts to guide these struggling people towards repentance and proper action, hoping they will change their ways. If not, they will face divine judgment. This emphasizes a serious truth. Every human action, whether good or bad, is closely watched by these celestial watchers and reported back to God. An angel leads a person on an enlightening path to show the distinct outcomes for the righteous and the sinners in the afterlife. The path starts with a descent into a dark abyss, a grim fate waiting for those who have not repented. This sorrowful place is filled with regret, a stark reminder of the consequences of denying righteousness. From the depths of despair, the path ascends to the realms of heaven. Yet, even here, beneath the firmament of heaven, darker forces plague humanity. These forces, forgetfulness, betrayal, lust, madness, and arrogance, loom menacingly, ruled by sinister vice lords. The atmosphere is heavy with the burden of these vices, each casting a shadow under the celestial light. In this heavenly domain, terrifying beings are pointed out by the guiding angel. These beings, angels with menacing looks, have twisted faces of madness. Their teeth protrude oddly, and their eyes shine like bright stars from which sparks of fire burst forth aggressively. These angels are assigned to the souls who, during their lives, rejected the need for divine help. They attend to those who failed to recognize the divine support, their frightening appearances reflecting the soul's own denials. When asking the angel for clarification, it is explained that although all souls follow the same path toward God, the righteous feel comforted and fearless, and they are accompanied by radiant angels of justice. Curious to see more, one might request to observe how the souls of both the righteous and the sinners leave this world. Looking down from heaven, earth appears insignificant, and the people on it even more so. The angel confirms that this minimal view is the true measure of human importance compared to the cosmos. As we observe, a giant cloud of fire representing widespread injustice, fueled by the corrupt leaders of sinners, covers the earth. In the huge expanse of the cosmos, the angel guided the vision toward earth, where the complexities of human life were reduced to mere fleeting moments. Amidst the trivial pursuits of humanity, the focus sharpened on a solitary figure, a righteous man at the threshold of life and death. As the man's final breaths wove through the fabric of time, the ethereal scene unfolded, showcasing the entirety of his earthly path. Each action, every decision he had made, was displayed before him, painted against the broad canvas of his life. This unveiling was not just a recapitulation of deeds, but a revelation of the profound truths underlying human existence. The simplicity and purity of his life's motives became apparent, highlighting the contrasts between the trivial and the significant, the ephemeral and the eternal. The great unfolding of life and death, our narrative unveils the destiny of a soul as it leaves the world. The scene is set. A just man, nearing the end of his life, is surrounded by both benevolent and malevolent angels, marking a significant moment not unlike a farewell. However, this is no ordinary goodbye. The virtuous angels take a leading role, ushering the soul away while imparting a crucial reminder about its physical body and the inevitable return on Judgment Day. The soul receives praise from its guardian angel and a spirit that had resided within it during its earthly life. The proceedings resemble a ceremonial procession, steeped in formality. The soul is led upward, facing a series of celestial evaluations to ensure no impurity has followed it into the heavenly realm. This sequence mimics a scene from a divine court drama, where Michael and numerous angelic figures finally greet the soul, acknowledging its earthly actions. From celestial judgment to personal trials, the path deepens. The superior court of heaven. As the soul leaves the earthly world, there is no celebration, just a somber group of figures that remind the soul of its missed chances and wrong choices. Sinister angels do not show kindness. They scold the soul as it leaves the body, reminding it that on Resurrection Day, it will meet its body again, not for praise, but for punishment. The story grows more intense with warnings and advice as it follows the fates of two different souls. One rises amid songs and praises, while the other is bluntly told it would have been better never to have been born. This vivid tale about what might happen after death is meant to keep people living rightly. Told with both respect and dramatic power, it serves as a reminder that every action, whether seen or not, has consequences. It's a picture of ultimate fairness, with a heavenly management, reminding us that what we do shapes where we end up. This story presents a soul's exploration to heaven as a very tough test, filled with challenges, not a calm and welcoming experience. As the soul tries to enter the gates of heaven, it isn't welcomed with open arms, but meets a series of tough tests and accusations instead. The soul comes across spirits that represent bad traits like mistakes, forgetfulness, complaining, and wrong desires. These spirits check if the soul has any of these bad qualities. Once past the gates, the welcome doesn't get warmer. The soul meets a large group of angels who loudly point out the soul's past mistakes and question any defense the soul might have for its actions on earth. This loud disapproval makes for a grim welcome for the soul. The angel with the soul joins in the sadness, upset that the soul's actions have prevented peace. Other angels say the soul's presence brings a bad smell that ruins the purity of their place. The story highlights their general disapproval and their quick decision to send the soul away. As the soul stands before God, its guardian angel does not offer support. Instead, he tells God that the soul did not follow divine orders, focusing on its many mistakes. The spirit that lived in the main character during its life also speaks, saying it wants nothing to do with the soul's past bad actions and stressing its disobedience. Now, God himself speaks to the soul, giving it a serious lecture. He asks the soul what good it has done with the blessings it had during its life, comparing the soul's lack of good deeds with the righteous, who made good use of similar gifts. God reminds the soul that he gave it the same opportunities as he gave to the righteous, like the sunrise, which shines on everyone the same, yet the soul failed to use these opportunities well. In the grand courtroom of heaven, the soul stood mute, with no defense against the stern judgments it faced. A divine voice then proclaimed the unyielding nature of God's justice, stating plainly that God rewards mercy with mercy and indifference with indifference. Thus, the soul was assigned to the angel Tartaro, who oversees the most severe punishments, to be placed in a realm of darkness filled with sorrow and despair, awaiting the final day of judgment. The scene intensified as celestial beings, angels, and archangels alike affirmed the fairness of God's decisions. Soon after, another soul appeared, visibly shaken and escorted by two stern angels. This soul, overwhelmed by the new and terrifying realities it encountered just a week after death, pleaded for mercy from God, who is known for being just. God questioned the soul about its lack of compassion during its earthly life, implying that its current suffering at the hands of unyielding angels was a direct result of its own uncompassionate actions while alive. When this soul claimed innocence, God's response was fierce, chastising the soul for attempting to deny its wrongdoings as though it could still hide them from others on earth. God made it clear that in his domain, everything is revealed. Every action, good or bad, is visible under the scrutiny of his throne. Left without a response, the soul fell silent again. God then called upon the angel responsible for the soul, who approached with a manuscript in hand. a detailed record of every wrong the soul had committed from its youth. This angel was prepared to recount every sin, showing the depth and precision with which divine justice is administered. Next, a detailed look at the divine court and its stern verdicts. The solemn verdict of the celestial court. God instructed the angel to limit the recount to the sins of a specific period, just 5 years before the soul turned 15. This instruction not only demonstrated the thorough examination the soul underwent, but also highlighted a certain degree of restraint in the divine audit, focusing on a particular set of years rather than the entire life of misdeeds. This process in the heavenly court was marked by an absolute attention to detail, where each sin was carefully considered and every appeal for mercy was weighed against the soul's past behaviors. This meticulous scrutiny ensures that justice is meted out fairly, leaving no scope for deceit or oversight. The narrative paints a picture of a strict but equitable judicial system, where every plea is evaluated with precision, underscoring the relentless yet just nature of divine judgment. When he passed away and arrived in the afterlife, a dramatic declaration came from God, who calls himself the just judge. God solemnly swore by his own existence, his angels, and his power that had the man repented 5 years earlier, even for a single year's misdeeds, all his previous wrongdoings would have been erased, granting him forgiveness and a clean slate. However, since he did not repent, God pronounced that the man was now doomed. The angel responsible for this sinful soul then spoke up, requesting that another angel bring forth the souls affected by the sinner's actions. Instantly, these souls were presented in the midst of the heavenly court, and the sinful soul recognized them immediately. God challenged the sinful soul to admit his actions concerning these individuals whom he had encountered during his earthly life. With no escape available, the man confessed to committing murder and adultery. He acknowledged not only violating others physically but also stealing their possessions. God responded with a touch of sarcasm to the man's understanding of justice. He explained that people who commit violence and die after their victims must wait in a special state until their own death. This way, both the victim and the wrongdoer can be judged together. After this, a voice ordered that the sinful soul be given to Tartarus, an angel known for giving the harshest punishments, to be thrown into the deepest parts of hell to suffer until the final day of judgment. As this tough sentence was declared, thousands of angels started to sing praises to God. Their singing formed a powerful chorus that supported the fairness of the judgment, each sound seeming to take pleasure in the harshness of the punishment. In the middle of this heavenly choir, an angel beside the observer quietly asked if everything that was happening was understood. With a quiet nod, the angel suggested they move to a completely different place, the home of the good people, where everything was calm and peaceful, far from the strict court of judgment. This was a kind change from the seriousness of divine justice to the peaceful areas where good people lived. They went higher, to the third heaven, and saw the entrance to this place, decorated with golden gates and pillars, each marked with golden letters. The angel pointed out that this grand entrance was only for those who were pure and had done no wrong, which was very different from the terrible fate of the sinful. The names on the golden columns were of good people who had spent their lives truly serving God on earth. Curious about every detail, the observer asked the angel about the purpose of the golden letters, and the angel explained that these letters showed the names and good deeds of these people. As they talked more about these faithful individuals, the observer thought about the big differences in fate between those who lived rightly and those who did not. They reflected on a divine system of justice that was as much about show and tradition as it was about being right and fair. This system, while it praised good actions, also showed a strict and unforgiving way of dealing with wrongdoing. A path of the righteous after their passing was revealed. The souls of the devout, burdened with anxieties of past transgressions, worried about moments when they may have spoken harshly to their neighbors. It was disclosed that the divine rewards awaiting them were intricately tied to their earthly commitments. Those who were married and remained faithful within their unions were promised certain blessings, distinct and specific to their path of fidelity. However, the rewards for virgins, those who strived for righteousness, and those who had suffered for the sake of divine glory, were significantly greater. It was conveyed that these individuals would receive blessings sevenfold compared to what was shown initially. Transitioning from this revelation, the vision led to another, more serene yet awe-inspiring scene. A river, glowing with an ethereal whiteness, stretched before the view. This was the Akarusian Lake, serving as a gateway to the divine city of Christ. Entry into this sacred city was not granted lightly. It was reserved for those purified from sins such as fornication, except for those who had repented genuinely and demonstrated actions worthy of forgiveness. Then transported on a golden ship, accompanied by 3,000 angels singing hymns towards the city of Christ. As we approached, the city's residents celebrated my arrival, welcoming me into a city that was entirely made of gold. The city was protected by 12 walls and 12 towers, and was so big that when asked the angel the length of a stadium, the distance between each wall, his answer was enigmatic, saying it was as big as the distance between God and humanity on earth. Surrounding this city were 4 magnificent rivers, of honey, milk, wine, and oil, each encircling it, named after the legendary rivers on earth, abundantly providing for those living in this promised land. This explanation, while impressive, felt overly structured and materialistic, presenting an afterlife that seemed as focused on displaying wealth and grandeur as it was on spiritual fulfillment. The descriptions mirrored earthly desires and material wealth, rather than offering a vision of transcendent peace or spiritual depth. This portrayal of heaven, with its rigid hierarchies of reward and architectural splendor, suggested a continuation of earthly values into the afterlife, rather than a break from them, raising questions about the nature of divine reward and the true essence of spiritual fulfillment in this heavenly narrative. Moving on, we explore a city where spiritual rewards meet reality. The facade of piety. In a city filled with divine grace, a story unfolds about those who lived very simply on earth. They avoided any pleasures, believing their tough life would earn them a place in this heavenly city. When they entered, something seemed wrong. The city had huge, tall trees that looked impressive, but had no fruit, only leaves. These trees were surrounded by sad men, each one alone and in deep grief. They watched sadly as others happily walked into the city. The trees seemed to feel the men's sorrow, bending down when they saw how sad the men were, then standing tall again. These sad men had lived their lives on earth with strict fasting and prayer, thinking they were showing how religious they were. But they were also very proud. They only helped people they liked, and they felt very important when they did something nice. This pride was actually a big problem. It stopped them from fully enjoying the blessings of the city. An angel explained that their pride was really a bad thing, poisoning their souls. The angel showed how different they were from the Son of God, who was truly humble. The men's humility was just for show. Inside, they were very proud, which made them lonely and sad in the city. The way the trees moved, bending and straightening, showed how these men acted on earth. They pretended to be humble when criticized, but never really changed their proud ways. That's why the trees copied their actions. Despite their faults, they were allowed to stay near the city's gates because God is very kind, and maybe when Christ comes back, the righteous people could help them get into the city. But their place would never be as good as those who truly lived humbly. The angel then took the traveler to a peaceful river of honey, glowing in heavenly light, where famous prophets like Isaiah and Jeremiah stood. These prophets had lived lives without selfishness, showing real sacrifice. Next, they went to a river of milk where all the infants eliminated by Herod were. This place was for those who kept their innocence. The infants were friendly, and the angel said that like these children, anyone who keeps their purity is welcomed after death into this group of pure-hearted souls as equals. As the exploration continued, the angel led the traveler to the east, where they came upon a river made entirely of oil instead of water. Around this river, groups of people were singing together, their voices creating beautiful music. These people had spent their lives on earth focused on worship and spiritual songs. Now in the afterlife, they kept singing, surrounded by happiness and peace. This place on the riverbank reflected their earthly spiritual ways, and each song was a powerful sign of their strong faith and dedication. The path through the afterlife was full of wonders, almost like a grand show where every good deed on earth was rewarded in heaven. Each part of this giant city, each special river, was designed to celebrate and give back for the virtues of its people. Yet, this majestic place also seemed very businesslike. It felt like the afterlife was an elaborate system where every earthly action was carefully measured and rewarded. The way rewards were given out for specific virtues mirrored how things are often done in the world. In this heavenly city, doing good things was like using moral deeds as money to buy happiness in specific parts of heaven. Though the scene was visually stunning, this straightforward way of dealing with morality made the complex nature of human ethics seem too simple, like basic trades, offering hospitality for access to wine or singing hymns for the peaceful oil river. This system made the spiritual world feel more like a well-organized market of virtues rather than a strange realm. It seemed to turn the deep and varied paths of the soul into a set of clear-cut deals, where spiritual gains were earned by clearly seen acts of goodness. Does this structured divine justice merely perpetuate earthly values into eternity, simplifying morality to transactions? Leave a like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more.